Talk to me about the power of breath. I've seen this referenced in your book. I know it's important to you. You teach this stuff. I'm just interested and intrigued.
So we've already identified that most of our decisions are based off emotional instincts. And that's because our subconscious determines 95% of our automatic behaviors and thoughts and feelings. And they were originally created through a felt perception. That's how the subconscious took on a program, a direction, was from a strong emotion. Now, we also know that a lot of our challenges in life come from our reactionary behaviors. We suddenly find ourselves being short with someone, or shutting down, or eating the unhealthy food without consciously thinking. Why that is because the subconscious is the automatic program. That's the reactionary, and it just sets off this program. The practice of becoming conscious is to be aware of what subconscious behaviors are driving the less desirable outcomes in our life. And the way to do that is to suspend in the present moment and observe the behavior. And the way to do that is to utilize the breath. When we take a breath, we become super present and we drop in that moment. And what happens is, for this split, like 1/10,000th of a second, we have this moment to observe what is the automatic behavior that's about to go. And do I really want to do that automatic behavior? I know where that goes, and it doesn't lead to the desired feelings. It causes conflict or anything. And that the breath suspends us between conscious awareness and subconscious awareness, and then we have the opportunity to override consciously the automatic program. When we don't take the breath, it's already it's happening. It just goes. So the breath is the liberation for us. It's the freedom. If we become super present with our breath, we realize that we're not just our thoughts. There's something else. There's an awareness of the thoughts. We also enable an intelligence to come through us because we're connecting to this universal mind, or this unified field of energy, which can only happen when we're connected to the subconscious as well. So that's the power of the breath. It sort of slows everything down. We can also use the breath to change our energetic state anytime. We're feeling low energy, we can do an up-regulated breath and we can suddenly get new energy. Energy isn't finite like time. You never have to be constrained by energy. We can also go, oh, I'm feeling really stressed and I'm losing myself and I'm about to make some bad decisions. We can elongate the breath out, slow down the breath, and activate our parasympathetic nervous system. And when we do that, it calms ourselves down. It reminds ourselves that we're not actually in a survival threat. And when that happens, blood flow goes back from the limbs, back into our heart and our brain, and we make better decisions. So it's our responsibility to constantly keep observing what energetic state are we in. Observe the breath. The breath is the cue. Anytime a stimulus comes from the outside world, two things will occur. Our breath will change and there'll be a sensation in our body. Most of the time, we're not paying attention to this. So if I observe my breath and I see that it's really short and shallow, it's a clue that something has stimulated me and put me into a fear-based place. And if I'm not aware that I'm in a fear-based place when I'm about to go in and lead a team or make a decision or do a deal, I might not realize that I'm about to do destruction and cause a lot of problems. I'm either going to be really short with people or I'm going to miss the cue of the opportunity in that deal. So we need to check in and go, all right, I've been stimulated. The great thing is I don't have to stay in that state. I can then use the breath to get myself back into a more calm state. So effectively, it's the cue, it's the clue of where we're at. It's the ability to change your state anytime you want. And that's something which I wish people knew more of, is that you don't have to accept your current state. You don't have to be that place. The physiological changes the psychological, just as the psychological changes the physiological. If your breath is very short, and then I get you to just imagine yourself in that beautiful moment where you just felt so much love or peace and just went to that place in your life, instantly your breath would just calm, because the mind can't tell the difference between something really happening or in your imagination. So that tells me that why would you allow your imagination to do harm to yourself? Just imagine something different. We really do have flexibility. And that's why people just think, oh, I'm just a naturally happy person. And I'm like, no, I understand the tools. I'm aware, and I'm constantly self-regulating myself to pull myself back in that place. And it's not because of anyone else. It's because I've learned that life is more enjoyable when I'm in this state. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have moments of sadness and anger. I don't try to avoid them. I honor them. But I also know the more you integrate them, the quicker they release as well. So it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy of how you become in this energetic state.
Any tools that you recommend, any external tools that help people with the breath? Anything that you like to recommend? I know people are constantly looking for maybe apps that help them or guidance in any capacity.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually have an app, the Intentionality app, which has a list of all these different breaths, and I call them circuit breakers. These little breaths that stop the energy from the outside world from coming in and short-circuiting your system. Because you know those times where you suddenly lose yourself and you're like, whoa, what happened to myself? That's because we didn't regulate our own energy. So we can activate these circuit breakers to protect us, to protect our own energetic circuit. So that's one really powerful way. And once you learn these, you then program them into you, so then you don't even have to think about them. I now know when I get stimulated, I'll find myself doing the perfect breath, which is a breath of 5.5 seconds in through the nose and 5.5 seconds out. What's interesting about that, nature has this interesting phenomenon. So if you do that, it ends up being 5.5 breaths per minute. And it also means you intake 5.5 liters of air in that minute. So there's a repetitive pattern there. So whenever I find myself getting a little bit stimulated, I just start paying attention to my breath. 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. Another beautiful tool that I do is called the concentration breath, where if there's too much going on and I can't concentrate, I start following the breath, just observing what my breath is. I then start rubbing my thumb and my fingers together very slowly at the same time as paying attention to my breath. So I feel two different sensations at once. And then I start rubbing the tongue on the roof of my mouth as I'm paying attention to breath and I'm paying attention to my fingers. And if you just try that right now, Scott, we could all do that in literally 2 seconds. We're paying attention to all three things. And right now, you can't go into a reactionary environment. I could yell at you right now and you'd just be like, I'm invincible. And so I do that all the time. And it's just a natural calming remedy. And if I don't do that, what ends up happening is so much stimulation comes in and then my energy goes and I lose myself. And I can't afford to do that anymore. I need to make sure that I'm present. And as you know, as you're running a business, parenting, partner, we can't afford our energy to deplete so much. And it comes back to really self-agency to go, are you taking responsibility for your energy? Because if you don't, then who is? Other people are just taking it freely or driving different scenarios in your life which aren't conducive to you. Only you can be responsible for your energy.
If you like clips like this, I have a similar clip here. And if you want to watch the full video, click here.